March 18th, 2013. I was talking about the river last night, and one of the few memories I remember having with my dad. And he's a man of little words, but the time that I spent with him was, as we say, precious. And I remember going out to the relatives out in eastern Oklahoma, and we'd go went down to the river. There's a river, I don't remember which river it is, but it's not too far from where everybody lived. And I remember you'd have to drive a ways, and then you had these long empty fields. And I just remember that the tracks were almost like sand-like, leading up to the river. So you kind of leave the trees behind, and then you could see off in the distance. You could almost see that there's nothing. So there had to be something there. So you keep driving these paths, and you'd come up to the river, and the river was big. I remember it being huge, that pretty rapidly moving, that you really couldn't swim across it. It would take quite a bit, and then the way that the river would bend and the sandbars. But I remember we went fishing, and he was great. He was always get sidetracked here. He'd always, whenever we'd go out to relatives, go out to the Alexanders, he could always spot something in the distance. We'd be traveling around, and he could spot a deer, point it out, and I'd find it. Point it out, and I'd find it. He could always spot the animals from a distance. I thought that was always amazing. I guess that's why I got such a good eye. I remember going mushrooming up in the hills in Washington, and you'd have to really scan the scenery and the landscape to find these little orange buds popping out of the ground, chanterelles. So I picked up a lot from him. The love of the outdoors, just being one with nature. But what the interesting, this specific trip to the river, I remember he brought some bacon, and he'd take a hook. No, he didn't even take a hook. He just took the bacon and wrapped a couple of strings around it, and he would dump it right into the river. And there was like some big rocks he'd be sitting on, and he would weigh that thing down and dump it down in there, and you could feel that thing pulling on there, and he would pull it up, slowly pull it up, and you could see that there'd be a big crawdad hanging on. I mean, a big one. There used to be smaller ones in the pond out back. I think I mentioned that before, that we would seine. All us cousins are kind of, I don't think I ever did, but I remember they would I'd kind of get in the water a little bit, but they would take the seine and they would just wipe through this little pond they had in the back of the property there, and pull out a couple of 3 dozens of crawdads, and we'd go fishing with those. But I remember this time he took that bacon and he would just dump it down in that water, and that big old crawdad would come up, and it'd let go, and I finally got to the point that it was really hung on. It really wanted that bacon. And then once he got it up onto the rock, I remember he stepped his foot on it because it was pretty good size. Slamp his foot on there and take the bacon away from it, and then he would cut off the tail and throw the rest back into the creek, and do it again, and he'd get a couple of them, and then he'd take those tails and he would chop those up into little bits, and then he'd put them on the hooks, and then fish and get some pretty good fish from that. Also remembering, that was the river story, but I also remember we had a boat. We were sitting in the garage a number of times that it would be parked in the garage, and we'd go fishing. Let's see, 10 killer. Sounds right. would go to the lake, and I remember him. And again, this is where he would fish. He would fish for the little fish. This was when we was fishing from the shore, and he would bring in these little bitty fish, and then he would cut those up, and then use those, and bait the hook and fish and bring in the bigger fish. So it was amazing to me that he could just make resources and do that. That reminds me of the story that when I first moved to Minnesota here. Gordon and I would go fishing a lot late at night and during the day. There's different times of the day and different times of the night you can catch different fish. And one of the places that he had his office was in St. Cloud, and it was, I'm gonna say it's an hour away from where we was living. And in between that, he'd go spend a day here and a day. He had several offices, so the one day that he had spent in St. Cloud, when we passed the river quite a few times, and I said, let's bring the poles and dump me off there at the river, and when you're done with the day, come back and pick me up. And I remember he getting out and I had my tackle box, and I remember him driving away, and I'm thinking, oh, I forgot the poles. The poles were in the back of the trunk, and I didn't have no fishing pole. I had the lures, weights, and sinkers, and hooks, but no fishing pole. And walked around the place for a long time and found a pretty good long stick. I had the string, the line, fishing line, and the hook, and I knew how to make up my own with the how you call it. Anyway, got my hook on there. Got the line on the pole. Went and this river there is in Cold Springs. I'm not sure what river that was, but I at the time went onto the dock, and would take that stick, the line, and I must have had bait. Because we'd stop and buy worms, but in this river was a lot of perch, striped back perch, and I fished like the dickens. I brought those fish in. I remember he came back and was pretty surprised that even without fishing pole I could reel in the fish. So sometimes you pick up a lot, even though you don't think you do. But some things are not just given, but if you watch and learn, you'll go far in this life. And some of those memories of with my dad fishing, I hold dear. And I'm going to leave you with a song from Jim Croce. This is about 1973. It's called Time in a Bottle. And even though it's about love, this is just had memories. And if you could just hold that, it just makes it so precious. But memories are a wonderful thing. March 18th, 2013. Croce, Time in a Bottle.